You mentioned that when you joined this line of work, it was a male-dominated world. You were the second woman in the position. You were the first woman spokesperson for the Ministry of External Affairs as well. A 1933 debate in the British House of Commons said that the special virtues of women are ill-suited for diplomatic life. And these special virtues were intuition and sympathy, very ill-suited. And you mentioned in previous interviews that there were many stereotypes or prejudices about women in these positions. One mock concern that was thrown around was how will women travel at night, whether it'll be safe for them or not. And you said that the world of diplomats at that time was often a male preserve, a world filled with cigarette smoke and flowing liquor. And it was a world essentially dominated by men, and patriarchal attitudes prevailed in the foreign service as they did in every sphere at that time. So can you paint that picture for me? What was that world like? What were some of the prejudices, stereotypes that existed back then when you joined?
I always say that one test is to be, imagine you're a fly on the wall and a woman has just left the room and it's a room full of men. And very often I say, I'd like to think how the men speak of that woman who has left the room. We don't know. I don't know. But very often the sense I get is that in most societies, I'm not saying that India is, a solitary example in this sense. In most societies, it's male-dominated. And the role of women has really not been fully evolved in the sense of what they contribute to society and its progress. Because women are not represented enough, and women have not been traditionally looked at in a way that here is somebody equal to a man who can carry the weight on her shoulders, who has the capacity and the capability to do work, to be able to fulfill certain duties, and to make a difference. So I think that really is the kind of patriarchy that we still have to contend with as women. I'm not talking just of the Foreign Service I'm talking in general, across the world. The United States of America has never had a woman president so far. And what does that tell you? That there are certain entrenched attitudes about the role of women and the confidence that can be reposed in a woman to lead a country. So that is really what we are contending with. And that environment has to change. That environment has to
how will
transform.
It change?
Well, I think, first of all, more and more women will have to come into the public square, as I call it. They will have to take on positions of responsibility. They will need more women leaders. The numbers are still small, but, they need to slowly appreciate in strength.
Is it lack of initiative from their end, or is it because its system is set up in such a way that they don't even feel comfortable entering, or they're not allowed to rise up the ranks?
I mean, there are many answers to that question. The system, I don't believe, take our system in India, constitutionally, politically, there's room for women. Nobody is saying women cannot acquire positions of responsibility. But there are social customs, social norms, prejudices, traditions that are ingrained in our society for millennia, and they're not going to change so quickly. Even in educated families, there are entrenched opinions about the future, how educated women should decide their future. It's usually the men who would prescribe, who would, may I use the word, pontificate on, what a woman's future should be. So I personally had to contend with that, let me say, in my growing up years, not with my parents exactly, but with the larger extended family. There were very, very clear attitudes about, what I should be doing, that, I should get married. I had completed my graduation, so it's time to get married. So there were those attitudes, and I owe it to my parents who had that kind of enlightened, emancipated approach to what the role their daughters should take on as they grew up. They wanted each one of us, 3 sisters, to be professional, to study, to educate ourselves, and to take on occupations so that we would be economically independent. I think that was a very progressive attitude, and we need more of that progressiveness within families across the country, across the world. And that, I think, would be a good first step. And then we need far more representation of women in every sphere of life. You need representation. which is why, this constitutional, the amendment to have representation of women in panchayats, for instance, 30 years ago. Now in parliament, I hope that becomes a reality. So I think initially you would have to have some quotas for women, but ultimately I think it should be a 50-50 representation in every organization. And I hope that happens. May not happen in my lifetime, but perhaps in the next generation. But I would say that in the Foreign Service, I personally did not encounter any discrimination, personal discrimination. I must say that. However entrenched certain attitudes may be, the patriarchy was there, but the people, the male colleagues I dealt with, I was very fortunate, I think. They gave me the space to grow, to develop, and entrusted me with sensitive tasks and very high responsibilities. So in some senses, we also owe it to the men, who think progressively.
You've credited Jaswant Singh for looking far ahead, for appointing you as the first female spokesperson.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm glad he did. I remember reading this, I think Barack Obama's autobiography. I can't remember the source, but he had said that in order to be the first black president of America, he had to be 10 times better than everyone else. He had to not give them an inch, because that's what it takes to actually shatter these stereotypes and shatter the glass ceiling.